Hi everyone, in this video I will show you how to configure email alert in Nagios. Several things can be configured like notifications option. You can, for example, receive email only when a service is in a critical state and during the work hours. In this tutorial, first of all, I will show you how to basically configure a SMTP server and Postfix on your Nagios server, because Nagios will use that Postfix server to send email. I will also show you how to add contact and contact group in Nagios. For example, with a contact group, it will be possible to configure a group for your DBA team. And then you can set alert for some services to only send email to this group. With this video, you should be able to do that after watching it. So let's start the video. We will configure the SMTP server on the Nagios server. We will open the main postfix config file. So here is the full path for this file. The line that we must modify is the relayhost 1. On this line, you must specify the SMTP server IP that you use in your network. Just for your information, I made a video to show how to use Gmail as relayhost in Postfix. Maybe that video can be useful for you if you want to use Gmail or another SMTP server with authentication. You will be able to base your configuration from that video and adjusting it to your needs. But now on this current video, I will configure a very basic Postfix configuration without SMTP authentication. So on the relayhost line, you have to specify your SMTP server IP address. Follow it by the network port number. In my case, it is 25. We will add another line for the myorigin parameter, and I will specify the domain name that I want to use as the from email address. What I want to say is when an email will be sent from this server. In my current example, if I send an email from this server, the from email address will be username at benlinux-55.com. For this tutorial, we will only configure these two lines. I will save and quit the config file. I will do a postfix configuration verification with this following tool. Yeah, everything is fine, no error detected. We can continue in peace. I will restart the postfix service. It can be done with this command. Now for the next thing I want to show you, we will go to our config file where our Linux hosts are defined. As a reminder, I created that config file in my first Nagios video and I set up it on my second one. In this config file, I currently only have one host defined. The use line specifies which template configuration that host will use. And we see here that it's the Linux server template. As a reminder, all hosts using that template will inherit all parameters defined on this template. So we will quickly go to see what our Linux server template look like. This template configuration is in the templates.cfg config file. I will search for my Linux server template. And here it is. We see all its parameters. I will explain the only one useful for this video. Let's begin with the check period line. With that config, all hosts using that template are verified 20 hours a day and 7 days a week. And it will be checked every 5 minutes. And if there's something else, then okay. Example, critical, warning, down or on no state, it will start to check the host every 1 minute. And after 10 attempts, it will send an email. So change this setting for your need. We also see here a notification period setting. It's set to work hours. So here is a little joke. Linux admins hate to be woken up, so we only notify them during the day. That's funny. But in my case, that template will be used on my critical Linux server. So I will set it to 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. It is a time period defined somewhere in Nagios. Later in this video, I will show you where the time periods are defined in Nagios and how to create a new one or how to modify an existing one. The next interesting parameter for that video is the notification interval. Here it is set to 120 minutes. That means how many minutes to resend an email about a problem with your host. Let's say your host is in an error or critical status in Nagios. It will send a first email to notify you, and then it uses that parameter as a delay before sending another email about the same error. It's like an email saying, hello, your machine is still off. What are you doing? Dude! So with this config, Nagios will remind you every 2 hours. The other line is the notification option parameter. So here we can define the case we want an email to be sent. The D is for when the host is down, the U is for when the host is unreachable, and the R is when it recovers. So on this config, it will send an email when the host is down, unreachable. It will let you know when the host is back too. The contact group is to set the user group who will receive the email. I will leave it to admin now, but I will talk about it soon when I will explain how to create a new contact or contact group in Nagios. I will save and quit my templates config file, and I will return to my host config file. I want to specify to you that we can also define all these parameters directly in the host definition. But if you do that, you will have to specify all these settings on each host if nothing is defined on the template. Here I will put an option just to show you. I will set the notification interval to 3 for this host because for this lab I want to receive emails more frequently. So when this host will be off, we will receive email every 3 minutes. Another thing good to mention is if you specify a settings directly on the host and another one on the template, the settings set on the host will have priority on the one defined on the template. Now we have to do the same things for our services configuration. I'm going to edit the services config file for my Linux host. Here is the path for this config file. Here we see all the services that I configure in my second video about Nagios. We can see that they use the generic service template here. We will go back to our template config file to see what the generic service is. And we will search for the template names generic service. I will go down. Here it is. We see all the settings that we already saw earlier. The check period, the check interval, the retry interval, etc. I will not modify the generic service template because this one is used generally by all services and template services. We will instead create our own Linux services template. I already made a config for that template. I'm going to paste it here and in the video description. I will call it Linux services. This following parameter look like what we saw earlier on the host template. I won't repeat their meaning, but the notification option setting has different options and I will explain them. W is for when the service is in the warning state. U is for unknown. C is for critical. R is when it recovers, so when it will come back okay. Set the option you want for your Linux host services template. You can also create a template for your Linux servers and another one for your Linux workstation. It can be useful, for example, if you only want to receive an email on the weekday for your Linux workstation. But for your servers, maybe you want to receive email every time when a critical or warning state occurs, even at night and the weekend. And even if it is a full moon and it is raining outside. So I will return to my Linux services config file. I'm going to change everywhere it is set to use the generic service template. I will replace it with Linux services. Normally, it will be necessary to make this change one by one, but I will use the magic of the sed command to do that. So basically, with this option for the sed command, I can indicate which word I want to replace with another word. So in this case, all generic service entries will be replaced by Linux services. The backslash is to indicate that the next character is a normal character. And don't treat it as a special character. I won't go into details about this subject for the moment. Maybe I will do a video later this year about regular expression in Linux. And then finally at the end, I enter the file I want to process. So here, it is my Linux services config file. I press enter to execute that command. Oops, sorry, the name was Linux services, not services Linux. Oh yes, it's better now. And if I go back to my file, I see that all generic services have been changed to Linux services. Wow, that is awesome. For this part of this tutorial, there is nothing else I want to show you for this config file, but we will come back soon when I will add some contact config on it. Here we are at the part where I will show you how to create a new contacts group and time periods. So we're going to edit the contact.cfg configuration file. It is the contact config file in Nagios. Here is where the contacts are defined, and then below it is the contact group. I only have the default one, but I will create a new one right now. In this example, I copy an existing contact from my notes. This new config will be in the video description. If you want, you can copy it and modify the parameters as you want. So for example, if you desire that a person receive email exclusively at a specific time of the day or week, it is possible to do that with some options on the Nagios config. So for our new contact, his name is Batman. I can specify which contact template it will use. It's the same principle as the host and services that we configured earlier. It will inherit all parameters defined in this template. I will specify his group name. I'm going to create a sysadmin group. So all my sysadmin contact will be in this group. So then in my alerts config, I will be able to configure, for example, to send email about a service problem to the sysadmin team. The alias is the name that will be displayed in the Nagios console or in the email alert for this contact. We can go there with Batman with a capital B. It will be more beautiful. The email is the email address to send an alert. So the email for this contact is courrieldebatman@yopmail.com. The host notification period is to define when this contact can receive email alerts. In the Batman case, he just works at night. So we're going to create a night schedule for him. And that will give me the opportunity to show you how to create a new schedule. So this contact will only receive email alerts when problems occur during the night. If it's occurred during the day, he will not receive any email. That was for the host notification period. Another option is available for the service notification period too. Here this host notification option is like we already saw earlier, down, unreachable, and when it recovers. And it's the same here for the services notification option, warning, unknown, critical, and when it recovers. For each contact, we can specify what notification he will receive. Maybe you have guessed it. If you have multiple contacts with the same settings, you can create a template and put these settings on the template. Then this parameter will be defined only once in the template and not on every contact. And then we just have to set the template to use with the use line. For example, I could create a sysadmin contact template and another one for the DBA and put the desired parameter for each template. But here we're going to leave it like that. Then we will create a second contact for my example. This time it's Alfred. The contact name is Alfred. I put him in the directors group, and in the alias, it's the name that will be displayed in Nagios console or in the email alerts. So we can enter his full name, Alfred Pennyworth. He is always on duty to check email. That means I'm going to put him in the 24/7 time period. It was for the host notification, and I will put the same setting for the services notification. Then for his host and services notification option, I will put the same options as Mr. Batman. This shows you a little bit how to add new contacts. It is very simple. You can add as many as you want. I will show you how to create a contact group too. Because in these two new contacts, we specified two contact groups, sysadmin and director, but they are not defined in Nagios. So I will define them here. We see here there are already an existing one. It is the default contact group in Nagios. I will create the sysadmin and the director groups. There are two ways to specify the members. As we see in the default config here, we have a member line in the contact group. It is possible to specify his members on the contact group config. If you have many, use the comma to separate them. Or you can do as I did above with Batman and Alfred. On the contact setting, I specify in which contact group they belong to. So it's up to you to choose how you want to configure it. There, we see here that we create the night time period. By default, this time period does not exist in Nagios. We're going to create it. We have a config file in Nagios called timeperiod.cfg. If you open it, you should already have a default config. Here we see our famous 24/7 time period, which we saw several times in our previous config file. In this video, this is where it is defined. In this configuration, we have a configuration for each day. For the 24/7 time period, it's always the same schedule for each day. It's from midnight to midnight. Here, this is how the work hours are set. Our schedule for the work day are different from the weekend. It's 9 to 5 from Monday to Friday. So it's here, just below this one, that I'm going to create our night service. I paste the config here. I'm going to paste it in the video description too, so you can take it if you want. We have the name and the alias for this time period. It gives me the opportunity to show you something. In my example, the night service will be from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Of course, we can't write 20 to 6 here because this schedule covers 2 days. The way to do it is to describe it like that. I will begin to explain my configuration with Sunday. I set it from midnight to 6 o'clock, and then I put the comma and add from 20 o'clock to midnight. I will configure it like this for every day because Batman works 7 days a week every night. I want him to receive email only at night. Okay, I will save and quit this config file. I will modify other things in Nagios to show you other examples about the time periods. Let's go to our Windows host config file, which was configured in my third Nagios video that I made. This video was to show you how to monitor a Windows host from Nagios. So I specified all my Windows host in this config file, and we're going to open it. And there at the top, I configured my template settings for my Windows host. For example, in this config, the notification periods for sending email are the work hours. If you have Windows Server, it may be a good idea to receive email 24 hours a day and 7 days a week for them. So it is possible to make a new template for your servers. I will show you this very quickly. I will call it Windows Server Template. Let's say that I want it to be checked more often than 10 minutes. By example, I want every 5 minutes. I can do it. I will change the max check attempts to for my server. I will change it to 2. And instead of getting emails only on work hours, I can configure it to receive them every time. For the rest, I will leave it like that. We see here an option that I didn't talk about. It is the notification enabled. If for some hosts you want to completely disable notification, just set this option to 0. We have the contact line here to specify the contacts. We also have the contact group line too to specify the contact groups. In this config, it looks like it is in double because we saw earlier in the Nagios contact file that Nagios admin is member of the admin group. I will erase the contact line. For Windows servers, I only want my sysadmin and directors groups to receive emails. And for my workstation, I just want Alfred to receive it. Batman doesn't have time to care about Windows workstation. Let's say that I have 3 directors specified in Nagios, but I don't want all directors to receive email, but only one, Alfred in this case. This is where I can specify the name of the contact. On this example, I specified the contact and the template. It is also possible to specify it directly in the host. Let's say I create another host, a second Windows host, and there his host name is batcab01. It is the computer in the batcab. Its IP address is specified here. It will be possible to specify Robin as a contact just for this host. But now I won't do it because Robin is not defined in my contact config file, and it will give me an error if I add it here. How is save and close the file? It's the same thing for the services configuration. Let's go to my Windows services config file. At the top of this file, I define the template and below all my services. For each service, I can specify who I want to receive email if a problem occurs. I can set it on the template too to apply it to all my services. Let's say that I don't want the default Nagios admin user to receive email for my Windows service. Actually, I only want the sysadmin. I can set the group with the contact group line and set it to sysadmin. After modifying all this config file, we will restart the Nagios service. I entered a lot of stuff manually. I will check my syntax here with this tool just to make sure there are no errors. Everything is good, 0 warning, 0 errors. It's time to sing celebration. Good time. We can restart the Nagios service. Here is the command to do that. This service restart apply all my new config. Now when something will happen, by example, when a machine will be down or when a service will be in warning or critical state, an email will be sent according to the different parameters that I have set. Of course, we have something wrong here. The Batcave host does not exist on my network. This is why this machine is down in the console and it should send email soon. I would like to specify something. If you didn't receive an email, but you should have, I'm going to show you a few things to verify. The first thing to check will be in the Nagios console. In the left menu, we have a link named Notification. That page lists every notification sent by Nagios. Let's check the first one. It says it's an alert for the Batcave host. Because that host is down, that it was sent at 12:14 p.m. to Alfred. By example, if an email is not in your inbox, come here first to see if according to Nagios settings, it should have sent an email. In my example, it confirmed me that it was sent. We see the line here. The other thing to check is directly on the Nagios server. I suggest you to check the Postfix logs. On Ubuntu Linux, it is in /var/log/mail.log. Open this file with the less program to view it. I'm going to zoom out a bit. When you are in the file, press Shift plus uppercase G to go to the end of the file at the last line. Then observe this last line to see if you can find something useful. In my case, we can see here that it matched with my Nagios console entry. Nagios sent an email from the Nagios at domain name. It was sent to courriel de Alfred at yotmail.com. That was the email I defined for Alfred contact. Then this email was sent to my smarthost. It is my relayhost address here, the one I put at the beginning of this video. Then the status is sent, so it is okay. If you really didn't receive it in your inbox, look in your smarthost server if you have access to it. Check its log to see if you can find something useful. With this verification, you should find where the email is blocked. But if in this Nagios page you don't see the alert here and the notification page, it means there's something with the Nagios parameters. The prerequisite necessary to send the alert have not been met. Let's remember that. I will give you an example. Let's say the CPU usage on the Ubuntu machine become critical because it is used too much, then it turns red in the Nagios console. You will not receive an email immediately. We have a column here, attempt. We saw that setting previously on that video, and the Nagios server will try this number of times before sending an email. So in my case, I set all my Linux service at 2 attempts, and for my Windows machine, I set it at 5 attempts. So if the C drive space for my Windows machine run out of space, it will need to do 5 checks before sending an email. It's a little thing easy to forget sometime, and that may explain why you didn't receive an email. Okay, I hope this video has helped you to understand how to configure alerts and Nagios. I believe with my 4 Nagios video I've made, I think people are at business to monitor their network environment. So the first video shows how to install Nagios on a Ubuntu server. On the second one, you can monitor another Ubuntu machine. And the third one, I show you how to monitor a Windows machine. And this time, how to configure email alerts. I will make more video later. Do not hesitate to write me in the comments if you have any special requests. It will be a pleasure to read you and enrich my video about Nagios. So I wish you a good end of day and bye bye. See you next time.